Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to round two of SFCL. It's the first game of the day here with Illness Esports taking on West Garfield Park. Both these teams 1-0 after some dominant victories in round number one. I'm Korvik. Alongside me is Klims. And Klims, how are you feeling about today's game?
Good. There's a couple of really good matches. Honestly, I think the whole day is filled with really
Yeah.
strong matches. I think these first two games, especially, are going to be rather close. I think that Illness and West Garfield Park that we're highlighting first will be great. But let's take a look at the bracket exactly to see who are taking each other on tonight. So, teams that finished off in the 1-0 seeding, Aerial Arise, both of the versions, as ACAD and Main made it. We've also got Make a Wish, Six Karma, Illness, West Garfield Park, HK Rebels, and Method all finding themselves in the upper bracket. The first two games that Corbeck and I get the opportunity to highlight tonight will feature two matches. The first one being Illness versus West Garfield Park. The second one being HK Rebels and Method.
That's right. Yeah, and they both did very well in their first week wins, as you can see over there, right? Illness getting off 7-3 against Red Right Hand, and then of course Garfield Park delivering a pretty good drubbing to, I believe it was GGG Academy. So they're very competent teams. There's a lot of names on these rosters, which I think we can take a look at that you're probably going to recognize. Some former pro players as well, Clims. A lot of talent on these two teams.
Both of these rosters are star-studded. Illness being known as the former investigation file. They've been through a couple iterations, but they're a strong team. CZ will be sitting this one out. Instead, it'll be GL taking on at the sub role in this match for the entry. As it comes for West Garfield Park, you've got Bio, Snake, Eddie, Rice, and Valor, a very strong roster who just obliterated GGG, which is also a roster with former professional players. So to see them go through and just wipe the floor with a team that you would have expected to be at least solid and put up a decent fight like GGG, it tells that maybe West Garfield Park is one of those dominant teams that we might see run the tables this season.
It honestly wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, with the former pro talent, some good young up and comers on there as well. Just a lot of opportunity to kind of explode onto the scene from that West Garfield squad, and just a squad of killers at the end of the day. Some really talented players. Let's take a look at our map vetoes. Let's see. It's a best of one here today. We'll find out where they're going to be battling. And hopefully it's something interesting. But you see Theme Park getting taken off there early. So that's some of our more interesting options. But hey, Oregon and Villa gone early, Clips. That's never a bad sign.
It appears as though West Garfield Park are going for the let's keep things interesting approach, and on the other end, Illness is like let's keep things maybe not as interesting. Let's try to go to somewhere where we're a little bit more comfortable, where we've seen a lot of gameplay, maybe a clubhouse, maybe a cafe. Instead, it's going to be Chalet as the decider. Not a big surprise. This is a map that I would have thought we would go to with these two teams. It just comes down to how West Garfield Park defends and how can Illness deal with the aggressive roams that West Garfield Park brings, because they were so strong, super aggressive. The utilization of Solus was incredible by West Garfield Park. You had not only Eddie, but you also had Snake both running the Solus at times, and that was the most dominant operator. So if there's someone that I'm going to say that Illness needs to remove if they want a chance of winning a few attacks, it's got to be the Solus. They were looking good on their organ attacks, I will say, but I would argue that Red Right Hand are one of the weaker teams in this competition. So we didn't really truly get to see exactly what Illness Esports are all about in the first week. I think that actually Red Right Hand looked a little bit better because of some of the rounds that they were able to win, but we'll have to see how Illness contests against West Garfield Park.
Yeah, one of the things I know that you noted when we were talking about this before this started was that the maintaining a strong attack information game was really important, right, to the side of Illness Esports. So that's something that they're really going to want to focus on. Like you mentioned, that Snake Eddie roaming duo, so efficient. You've seen probably both those players on the tear before at previous times. They got to shut them down. And I agree with you 100% on the Solus point. Such a strong operator as things go and can be used so effectively by a team that's very talented and communicative. I almost think that should be an auto ban here on the side of Illness, though. I'm not a siege coach. I'm not going to make policy prescriptions, right? I'm just going to say I think that would be a very wise maneuver from them.
I would agree. In the previous match, Illness and West Garfield Park both took out the Ying, so assuming that they're well
Mm.
rehearsed and kind of practiced without it, either both teams will ban the Ying or they'll look at each other and be like, oh, you banned Ying, we banned Ying. Either you're going to do it or we're not going to have to at all, and no one's going to play Ying in this game. Who knows? Or maybe someone will so bust something out. But there she goes. West Garfield Park immediately just taking the words out of my mouth, getting rid of the Ying. So you won't have those flashes, the Candelas to go through. A lot of teams love the use of Ying, especially on a map like Shelly, because it opens those opportunities in the holes of the defense. That's something West Garfield Park don't want to happen to them tonight.
Interesting Nook ban coming out right there. Sensible, definitely, especially on a map like Chalet, where the Hell presence can really make a difference. Really allow Nook to get into some nooks and crannies, no pun intended, where they can be quite annoying. Solus getting banned out. There you go. Uh, on the side of illness, okay, yeah, no, that's the one. That would make sense. Yeah, I think that's a solid ban right there. Like I said, I think it's almost a necessary ban at this point in time, especially with West Garfield starting on the defense. Banning Valkyrie, a lot of sense right there too. Obviously, very strong operator. Still leaves some pretty good tools in the toolkit, though. Let's be honest with ourselves right here. Azami, for example, probably like the strongest solo defender in the game, I would argue. But she's still out and available. And sure enough, we'll see Valor take it right off the rip. And actually, the other operator I was going to mention here as well, Mira, being picked up early on. And Inrio is so terrified of that duo, he is out already.
Tragic. Truthfully, tragic, but what else would you expect with the first game? Always got to have some sort of connection issues, some sort of wacky thing to take over.
Yeah,
But let's kind of talk about some of the nitty gritty things of this match, right, Tristan? You
yeah,
mentioned the attack uh, that illness have to maintain. They were really good about having that information on their last game on Oregon, but it came down to a little bit they were a little timid and a little slow on the roam clear. And sometimes that impacted and hindered their rounds. So I'm curious to see if they're able to pick up the pace a little bit, especially on a map like Chalet and against a team that was really dominant on defense, like West Garfield Park, who went up 6-0 on their defensive half of theme, which, yes, tends to be a little bit more defensive sided and Chalet a little bit about balanced, about halfway, 50%. So we'll have to see exactly how they're able to kind of handle that, and if they can handle and tame the room that West Garfield brings, because they love to be aggressive. They like to go fight back, even when they fall away. They'll still go run up the staircases right back at you.
oh yeah, for sure. And the other thing I think worth pointing out here, and obviously the attackers could switch this up. They have that luxury, but Brava being shown here. We were chatting, or I think it was you and Joe who were chatting before this broadcast started about the efficacy of Brava as an operator, right? Whether or not it's really good. A lot of teams they seem very confident in taking Brava. They seem happy to play her. And it's an interesting operator because she obviously gives you a very strong ability, but the usages are relatively limited and they do require, some technical finesse to get them into position, right? Because at the end of the day, you are relying on a drone. All the standard drone denial stuff will prevent it. But you were sort of making the case for Brava, and I was, especially on a map like Chalet, I think it was you who was making this case. So I was going to let you kind of opine right there on why you thought that was potentially a good pick.
Yeah, I think it was Joe actually that brought up
Oh, it
like
was Joe.
she's
That's right.
really
He was
good on
talking about
Chalet.
cams.
But any of
Yeah.
those operators that bring cams, bring that information, like Zero, you've always seen Zero be very present on Chalet. It's fallen out of the meta very much so lately because there are operators like Brava being brought in into this game that allow for better cam prowess and better intel overall. So Zero will definitely need a buff in sometime soon.
Yes.
So that way it kind of brings him back into that meta because he was so good on a map like Shelly. He still is good on a map like Bang, where there's those big, large areas that you can hide those Argus cameras and get that information for your team properly. This time around, though, you won't see the Zero being brought, and the Brava gets swapped off for the Flores, and that's another operator that just brings more drones, more information that the Illness Esports attack are going to be able to utilize against West Garfield Park.
Yeah, very effective operator on Chalet as well. One that in lower ranks you sometimes see kind of banned almost automatically when this map pops up. Not just because of obviously the drone information gathering aspect, but just pure util destruction, right? For so many of these defenses on Chalet, they rely on really heavy util presence. Biologic trying something cheeky right here, and I think Wimpy might have sussed that out early on, kind of trying to open up a long sight line, but it's BGL who strikes first, takes Snake out of the equation immediately. So there's one of those top tier roamers done and dusted before the first minute of the round is almost gone. No hesitation here from Illness Esports at all to get involved.
Well, easy enough to open things up there for BJL. They're going to need him to be dominant tonight on the entry, especially missing a player like CZ, who just thrived off of the information that was brought by Illness. I think that Illness are one of those teams that have top tier information, especially after watching all of the games from last week. I think that they're one of the teams that I was most impressed with for the information that they are able to gather for their entries on attack and how much they enabled the players on attack as BJ was able to find another. Wimpy finds Bio somewhere across the map as well. So lots of kills going in favor of Illness as they have very easily handled the West Garfield Park roam. But now it's on the West Garfield as they begin to get aggressive. Valor will swing out, but BGL wins that fight as well. So the sub stepping up huge the first round, finding 3, setting pace for this match as Eddie is last alive in a 1 versus 5.
Here comes Eddie. He's going to try for it. Why not? Gets 2 right off the rip and getting there to shut it down. And BJL, the hero of that round, huh, Clips? I mean, what was that? A triple kill? Just slaughtering these defenders. And honestly, West Garfield Park getting a little bit of a bloody nose there on round number 1. They did not look in control right there.
No kidding. It was a dominant round by Illness. I mean, they just completely destroyed the roam that West Garfield Park bring. I think a lot of that comes off of the solo span. That's a point that I highlighted early in the game because of how important she was and how heavily utilized she was on the West Garfield Park side, where they could fall back from those drones and kind of guide their team around those drones in order to be successful on the roam. This time without the Solus, without the Valkyrie, they chose to ban that out. Have a lot less information, and you're not able to be as mobile and as fluid around the map as maybe you want to be.
Very true. And I mean, I think one of the most important aspects for this West Garfield side is that they get those early picks, right? They get the opening pick battle. They didn't right there, and obviously it boded quite ill for them. I'm interested to see now as we move on to the next round, if they were able to get that early pick, would that make a massive difference, right, in how the course of the round goes? Is it really a lot hinging on the opening kill, as is so often the case, if we're being honest with ourselves? Or whether it's more of maybe a matter of adaptability or something like that on their side. Obviously, early days yet, right? We can't be drawing a ton of explanation or extrapolation, let's say, from these early stages. But it is interesting to note that it went south so quickly for them right there. Snake is on the roam, and then I was curious where Rice is setting up as well on the smoke, because they were showing us some interesting sort of prep work down and about, but got Arrow here droning in for the top floor. We'll see if they slowly move their way forward. Snake waiting, though, might have been misdroned. I don't think so. BJL, again, taking that very aggressive positioning, sort of leading the charge, as would be expected. This time, Illness Esport is doing a lot better of just kind of holding off at the start here. Glimpse, they haven't been overwhelmed quite as quickly.
Most definitely, and it comes down to Illness going for that full side clear. They start on the opposite end of where the bomb site is, work their way all the way across, and eventually they'll get the control that they want and try to pinch Illness inside of the bomb site. But they're still fighting. They still got a lot of control. You still have Snake who's roaming around up top. You've also got Eddie utilizing those Kiva barriers, continuing to generate them up and get so much pressure against the attack inside of the bomb site. You're able to create these new angles, and you're forcing the attack to try to clear this utility. And there's so much being brought out. There's no catch denial. There's no Jaeger, no Wamai on the board being brought out by West Garfield Park. So it's going to be easy to clear that utility, especially when you've got 4 nades in the set of Giddy and BGL, and now the wall begins to get open, and they have Dining Hatch control. There's so much time left for West Garfield Park that they have to deny and stall the Illness attack because they have all the control in the world that they want.
Well, about a minute left in the round, 5-5, coming down to an absolute frag fest here at the end. Eddie checking angles, got some support, but of course, 3 or 4 members now of West Garfield Park pushing up on the backside of Wine Cellar. They're running out of time. Moves will have to be made. Arrow's got the opening there on the flank. Could play around that as well. That fire slowing them down just a little bit, but not enough where it'll really effectively delay them. And sure enough, all four members here moving in. Illness Esports, Arrow's just going for the plants. And I admire this play so much. What a wise decision. Giddy on the coverage gets 1. They nearly find 2. BJL falling back right there. And now it's a very difficult situation here for the members of West Garfield. What can they do exactly? Well, they can get BGL down and dusted. They can get Wimpy as well, but Arrow still has plenty of coverage, as does Giddy, turning their own Volcan against them. as Rice picks up one with the shotgun. 24 seconds left on the defuse timer, and Giddy still has a beautiful angle here from Dining Room Hatch. Inrio pushing in and finishing one more off. He'll actually regroup on the top floor, and that's just going to leave Rice here. The lone smoke player knows where the danger is, but doesn't really know how he's going to be able to deal with it. He's just going to drop in and go for the defuse. He gets the bait on Giddy. Some really high intensity early round antics as Inrio steps forward and finishes it off to clutch it out.
Incredible round by Illness Esports, continuing to be dominant on the attack. They got so much control of that west side of the map, able to get the hatch control, which was vital for that take. Once they had that established, it's really difficult to swing across pillar. You also have the capital bolts that can come from above, deny some of that area intel. You had Arrow run into the bomb site, begin to get the diffuser down, and even at the end of the round, with the smart play, using the Goyo Volcon canister against West Garfield Park, that canister lasts 20 seconds. Ubisoft had posted an article, and I was able to read it, of all the denial times that operators bring. You get 4 Goyo Vulcan canisters, you get 20 seconds denial each, so listening to about 80 seconds or a minute, and nearly about a minute and a half of denial there with the fire. And being able to use that on a post-plant diffuser, that's 20 seconds, that's half of the plant time. So doing that, utilizing the defensive utility against them, and just creating a great plan for an attack allowed Illness to win yet another round. And if they're able to continue to do so and control the West Garfield roam, which has been extremely weak in this time around, we saw in their last match on Theme Park, they were so dominant. That's how they were winning the map. They went up 6-0. This time around, Illness has control.
Yeah, they 100% do. I think it's probably been the most telling aspect of these 2 rounds. I was gonna say I don't want to get that hype early on, but that was a fast-paced round. There was a lot of action in that. You always know when it's a 5v5 and it's coming down to 1 minute left that there's going to be a lot of death in a very short amount of time, so it always picks it up. But Eddie is on the roam again, this time picking up on the Legion. Always like a good Legion beat. One of my favorite operators in the game, honestly. But he's definitely got his work cut out for him. A lot of sightlines being opened up here that are putting him under threat, and this fallback again. And I will say last round was a bit sedentary there, as Eddie, probably given up by that drone destruction, nearly gets clipped for his troubles. Still alive here on Grand Piano, looking for a kill through the window, can't find the good angle. Wimpy has been dropped, so at least they've got that going for them momentarily here, and some pretty good attacker information as well, Clint.
West Garfield Park are certainly being a real pain here on their roam. They've rotated through 2 bomb sites and now going to bar. So they'll start on the master side over and work their way back across as they try to stall out as much time as possible, that being West Garfield, as they continue to whittle down the time of the defenders. Wimpy going down is also going to wait even more time as finally he gets revived, but a minute and a half have gone by. Finally control established for Office. West Garfield Park, they've got enough time wasted off the board, I think, to be successful, but Illness still plenty of time to be able to execute on this round, even with Wimpy on a little bit of lower HP, who might be a little more timid on the entry this time around. You've got BJL and Giddy both still with plenty of HP, able to take those initial gunfights.
100%. And again, the slow approach reminds me, honestly, a lot of the last round right there as the Gon 6 is fired off. Biologic, though, still with pretty dominant control, as does Snake here of the library corridor. I don't really know how they're going to kind of shove them out of this position, because honestly, Illness Esports is not in a spot where they can do that particularly easily. And I will say, this is a moment perhaps where the Brava pick is hurting them, as opposed to having the Roteros of Flores. But don't tell BJL that, because he'll jump right in. Here comes Inrio, and there's BJL again. So I guess the answer to my question, Klimps, is pure applied brute force.
Seriously, I mean, Illness, they're just a 3-2-1. You could see it happen across the board. 3-2-1, hop in the case window, go fight the guy on blue stairs. Once you have that control, that allows Illness to pivot. They flood through the piano hallway. They have all the control they want. They win their ones, truthfully, and West Garfield Park just have no answer. One thing that they did so well in their game last week, and that's what I like to preface, I like to talk about last week and then compare it to this week a lot. But West Garfield Park last week were aggressive on the roam. They went for the kills. This time around, they're trying to waste time. And although it is the right play against Illness Esports, you gotta try to fight for those kills, because the 5v5 executes are not working in your favor. And if you continue to allow Illness to have that, then they're comfortable. They're good at that. They are one of those teams that will clean up on their executes, especially in a 5v5. They're a well-practiced team, and we'll see how West Garfield Park change as they go to their fourth bomb site, Dining Kitchen.
Yeah, the adaptability needs to come online ASAP. You gotta go full ditto mode right here and transform a little bit because it's just not working. I mean, they got me good on the last round, Illness Esports. I was going for the whole, Rainbow Six Siege. It's a chess match, man. It's all about calculation. They just picked up the board. And hit West Garfield with it. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective. Kind of all comes razor explanation for what was going on. But I'm actually genuinely surprised that Illness has had or I should say, West Garfield has had the the issues that they are having right now. I would have just expected a little bit more effective performance when it does come to the killing. And I think, we're seeing a good amount of time wasted, and you pointed this out, and we're seeing it again here at the start of this round. I mean, we're about 40 seconds into round number 4. Illness Esports doesn't feel like they haven't made a lot of inroads, but I will say they're taking advantage of this time to get some very nice setups clips, and that is part of the reason why they were able to execute that last round so efficiently. They don't feel like they're being challenged. It's a lot of implied threat and not a lot of actual threat.
Look at the amount of information being brought by Illness. Finally, an opening pick here for West Garfield. A snake begins to be enabled and takes down the player on the mezzanine rappel, but still the roam is present ever so much. Inrio is down below trying to help his teammate of BGL, who's still been trapped inside of the library for over a minute and a half. Just can't choose the right novel, as again, their library is just too large for him to handle. Snake still being such a pain, but it's a couple kills that swing in the way of Illness Esports as they finally grab that control of top mezzanine and fireplace.
Was a 2-to-1 trade out right there by the members of West Garfield, but they have bought, again, their team quite a bit of time here, about 1 minute, 15 seconds now in the round, but you can just feel the confidence oozing off of BGL here, right? Like, BGL really is feeling themselves on this map, and that 7-2 scoreline speaks for that. And I think if you're sitting on the side of West Garfield now and you're sort of holding these defensive positions, you do have to get a little bit worried. Valor is still up there. I just noticed that. So they haven't quite dealt with the castle there either. So plenty of defensive options available. The aggression that Illness is bringing, I just don't know if these sort of stay defensive positions are going to work.
And now you get the Flores drones going into the site, blowing up some more of that utility. Although the gas grenades are able to come through, there's a lot of plant spots here in kitchen dining, and as Valor is holding this very long angle all the way in a mezzanine. I think the smoke is actually blocking off his angle just a little bit. Arrow and Valor are having a stare down. I think Arrow can see him. He does. Valor stands up at the wrong time, loses his fight. Rice, the only player on the bomb site, and will have to try to make something work. Whiffs the shots of the SMG, but able to finish off Diana. But that allows for the plant to go down. Bio from behind inside a lobby will get one, but Arrow rips off the plant. Wants to go back down. Rice off to clutch a 1 versus 2. On his way into the red carpet, but the coverage is there from Giddy as Rice falls and Illness take their 4th straight round.
Well done on the side of Illness. Honestly, one of the things that I think they're doing so well is they just collapse space so efficiently. They're kind of building it wasn't so apparent on the basement round, but on these wider rounds where there's more map to play with, Illness Esports really kind of weaves a net around their opponents, and then slowly but surely sort of constricts, and they're taking a lot of space. And I think that's one of the problems that these roamers are having, especially on the top floor, is there are so many sight lines. If they don't get the initial pick glimpse, they're just not finding room to play where they aren't constantly in somebody's gun sight. And I think it's making things incredibly difficult for them. There's just no freedom of movement.
Seems rough here for West Garfield Park. They're just not enabling each other, really. On the roam, it seems like they fall back a little bit too fast. And even when they go to hold the ground, like Snake was holding that mezzanine ground, there wasn't anyone helping him. No one was swinging library. And yes, Illness are doing a great job of holding angles, trying to lock West Garfield from being able to help each other out. But there are small moments and spots where you would think that West Garfield Park would be able to help each other out here on the roam and on the ability to stall the entries. And the initial entries, the information game is just so much in favor of Illness. To see the Mozzie being brought out is certainly going to help out West Garfield, but you might even need us to go as far as putting mute jammer as far for the roam or bringing the vigil.
Right. Yeah, that would probably help, honestly. It's just a matter of kind of, I think, playing off of each other, like you said. They're not really playing a trade game, and they're kind of just leaving one solo defender to hold a very large area. Classic example, you're seeing it illustrated right here. And this is just a really hard task, right? To ask. Even of a talented player, you're asking a lot of Eddie right here, and this is a lot better. See the amount of support now that they're bringing in to reinforce this defensive position. Now you're playing in a spot where you can actually get some trades. And if you can maybe even get some trades and just keep it even, you sort of prevent those staggering losses that they seem to take in fits and spurts that really sort of derail the overall game plan here for West Garfield. And again, they're playing tight on one another. I like this defensive setup a lot more, and the way they're playing this is far more effective, I think.
I just want to point out, I love the overhead view there, seeing all of the drone work being done by Illness. There are
Yes.
drones everywhere, downstairs, upstairs, left, right, center, enabling their entries, getting them the control. It's thorough, and it's done very well. You can tell that they've rehearsed this. You can tell that they've dry run their droning, because look at that. I mean, they're throwing drones everywhere. It seems like every second there's a drone being thrown out of pocket, which is awesome to see, because that enables West Garfield Park to just be more and more dominant. Or I'm sorry, Illness rather, to
Oh,
be more and more dominant. There goes the burn and clear for the top blue stairs. Eddie will fall. That's one of the hot-handed guns here for West Garfield Park. And C4 falls out of pocket. Valor still trying to hold on the library, but gets
oh.
smoked off the angle. Giddy from Piano Door will find another. Bio trying his best to hold here on the top floor. Might find one. Will find one on the backside of Arrow, but he's going to have to find four. With the Deagle out, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Pistol battle comes in favor of Giddy, as he's got more ammo and better information. Illness, 5 straight rounds.
Wow. Yikes. West Garfield Park just getting kind of worked on that one. And, I don't necessarily know what the answer is here for them. I'll be honest. I don't know what it is. There's some of these gunfights, they're just straight up losing gunfights. I mean, there's not a lot of tonic for that particular issue if you're not just getting the kills. But I was gonna point out, you talked about all those drones and their ability to just kind of have intel everywhere, which has been sort of the really effective tool, I would say, in the pocket of Illness Esports. Speaks again to that loss of the Solus, not having the access to the Solus, because I mean, so many teams, especially in the early phase, right? Her kind of entire reason to Etra is that she destroys drones. She's really good at it, and you can tell that they're kind of hurting from not having the ability to shut down their opponent's roam game or drone game in an efficient manner, and it's hurting their roam game. They never look very comfortable. And even in that situation, Glimpse, where they had a lot of support, they were playing a three up on the top deck right there and playing off of each other. You just never, again, got the feeling that they were really in control. It was almost as if terms were being dictated to them instead of them kind of being able to summon up some sort of initiative and push back on the constriction of Illness.
So far in this game, Illness is doing everything they need to do to be successful. They're checking off all the boxes, and honestly, they're winning their fights. And that's one of the biggest things, truthfully, is Giddy and BGL are doing an incredible job on the entry role. And it seems like if they continue to do so, there's going to be more dominant. Inrio is also doing a solid job here, playing the flex, playing the sledge, doing some of the role playing that's needed. Everyone's doing the job that needs to be done. If it's ugly, if it's fun, doesn't matter. They're winning their fights, and that's the biggest crucifier here to West Garfield Park, is they have just not won their fights. They've been bloodied, they've been beaten, bruised, bashed all this entire map so far, but BJL is in the sight? I mean, what?
Mm, whoops.
Where did he get there? How did he get in so far and get
I
away with
don't
the
know.
kill?
I don't know. BJL has been just a magician on this map. Honestly, he could go in a revolving door behind you and come out in front of you. I mean, it's been fantastic in the things that they've been able to do. I mean, this is some genuinely really solid and just like penetration from Illness Esports. They're all over the place here, and West Garfield again. They do not look comfortable. They are not in control. Snake, poor Snake, is 1 in 5 on the round. He's going to be 1 in 6 because he's pushed into the gun side of Wimpy. And it's a 4-2 here on round 6. West Garfield Park absolutely floundering just not able to right this ship whatsoever.
I think we felt that West Garfield Park dominated the game and tried to go for a speed run last week against Triple G. Illness are flipping the script, and they're going for the speed run of West Garfield because they just continue to be so dominant in these rounds. You can't count them out yet,
Oh,
but Midas doesn't activate in time. The EMP shuts down all of the electric utility. Inro finds the last two off of a nade and a nice shot in the blue. A 6-0 flawless attacking half here on Chalet for Illness.
oh, oh, man.
Wow. I don't even know what to say. Like, the words are just
It's secondhand pain is
it,
really what it is. I mean,
I feel
I don't want to be
bad.
too harsh, but
I
it's
feel
that's rough.
yeah.
And you know,
I'm just gonna put it out there. Do not take Illness to Chalet for the rest of the season because the way that they
yeah,
look, just everyone ban it. It needs to be
avoid.
an auto ban because the only time Illness should ever be playing this map is maybe in grand finals. They look unstoppable.
Yeah, they do. Do not get down with the sickness on Chalet. Just don't do it. I will say, it's interesting because, at the start of this, before we started, you were talking about your prep, Clemson, and some of the notes that you had made, and I was just looking at them here, and it was uh, for West Garfield Park, continue a dominant roam, win opening pick battles enabled with info, and everyone does their job, and they will win. And those three aspects of WGP have just been non-existent. They have not had a dominant roam. They have not been able to win the vast majority of the opening pick battles. And you do kind of get the feeling that everybody's not doing their job, right? So it's kind of interesting to see that the three sort of keys that you identify, and this is maybe a little bit of credit to you, but just a general observation. Those three keys, they're not hitting them, and they're being punished for it quite actively by Illness Esports.
They're being ruined right now, and even then, looking at some of the specific things, they're not shutting down the information game. They're struggling to. We'll have to see how they do on the attack to if they're able to expose the defense. But their defenses were heavily exposed, and they just could not make the adjustments that they needed to on defense
No.
to shut down Illness. And that's the biggest thing. Is West Garfield just they've not done much. Inrio able to find the sixth opening pick. The sixth opening pick for Illness this game. Giddy will take down Snake. Eddie's going to have to try to hop in, but there's a frost mat waiting for him under that window if he even hops in. Giddy will take down Rice. It's a massacre, a complete slaughter. Eddie leaves control of the bomb site to hunt down the player on top main. Will end up winning the fight, but there's 4 more bodies he'll have to kill. He is able to do it. Eddie is a very strong player. Easily could win out these gunfights, but to find 4 more bodies with less than half HP, it's just almost not even doable. Illness just complete dominance in this game.
Yeah, I think honestly it just looks like West Garfield Park has hit like a squad broken moment a round or two ago, and just any kind of snap they had is just gone, and kind of almost like putting down a sick animal right there. It'll be Illness Esports who just finishes it off finally with a straight 7-0 against West Garfield Park here on Chalet.
That game was like 20, 25 minutes at most, which is insane because these are two good teams. Like, these are two teams I have making playoffs. And
Yep.
let alone that, like, they're just good. These are two rosters who last week felt very dominant in their games. Illness, I was a little worried because they gave up some rounds I felt like they probably shouldn't have to right hand red, and they had a lot of very tight rounds with them. But West Garfield Park slaughtered GGG, made minced meat of them. But now, I mean, look at Illness. Like, they just completely did something that we didn't expect tonight. We expected this to be a close game. I actually had West Garfield winning this game originally in my like prediction.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I think you said that it was going to be a close game, Clemson, and it was not.
no,
There's
not
no,
even. I must have cursed it because
you must have
wow.
done. I am not a baker. I cannot sugarcoat it. It's bad. It's bad.
Illness was
Um,
cooking.
they were cooking. I think that's probably the more important thing to focus on right here is just the effectiveness of that Illness side. They were doing everything right. They had all the angles set up. The communication was immaculate. The intelligence gathering was immaculate. The gunplay. immaculate. I mean, just one thing after another. Like if you were putting together a checklist of things that you wanted to see from a talented Rainbow Six Siege team, or you wanted to see from a Rainbow Six Siege team that was being dominant, you pretty much saw all of those on display across the course of those 7 rounds. I think without a doubt. And I don't know if that necessarily indicates that Illness is going to be, a superstar team here for the rest of SFCL. Sometimes matches are aberrations, right? But certainly they must feel very happy coming off of the backside of that.
Yeah, that was an incredible game for Illness. I mean, there's really not much you can say other than they dominated this match. They took control. They grabbed West Garfield Park by the horns and just completely dominated. But I think we have Inrio on for an interview. I'm sure Corbeck will be handling the duties. So enjoy having a chat with
Oh,
Inrio here.
we'll see if we flip over. I think we're just getting him into the chat, so we'll have an opportunity to talk with him and get some interesting perspective. Hey there, Andrea.
Hola.
Congratulations on that massacre, my good man. That was a heck of a fight.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys were playing out of your mind. So I gotta ask, just to start off here, what were you expecting that to be a close match, or were you very confident coming into it? Because boy, you guys looked confident.
I mean, we're always confident every game we play. And honestly, I didn't expect it to be a 7-0 because I know they have some very talented players over there. They're not bad players themselves. I just didn't expect it to be 7-0. I thought maybe they get like, 4 or 3 rounds, like a default like score, but I didn't expect it to be in a Hell in a Cell neither. But regardless, happy with the outcome of 7-0. Like, who's not happy about that?
Yeah, nobody, right? What was the secret sauce right there? Like, what was it? You guys were just having these things where you got these burst of kills. Suddenly, 3 members of the enemy team would just be dead in a split second. What was making the engine tick so well for your team?
Just good droning and then blowjob. Just but BJL. My bad about that, but we call him that. We just placed him into CZ's role, and he just walked in, be a Terminator off our info, and we won rounds.
Yeah, it was a very impressive performance from BJL. And I'm curious, did you guys look to Chalet specifically as a map where you thought you were going to do really well? Is this one that you kind of prepped significantly? Because both Clemson and I felt like you guys looked like you had a very commanding understanding of that map.
I wouldn't say we prepped it to play against them. More so, we just like Chalet as a map as a whole. But usually, it always gets banned. No one really likes playing Chalet. So we seen them not really ban it, and they like it was like last 2 maps, Club and Chalet, and they picked Chalet. We're more than happy about playing that map. We really love that map.
All right, and just last question, I'll give you an opportunity. Anybody in particular you want to shout out for tonight's performance? Anybody who deserves some big accolades for everything that went on today?
As usual, we appreciate the support, the team as a whole. We love the fans and the haters too. Is what it is. And we appreciate BJO for the big sub out of him, just walking in, being a Terminator, and just putting people down. Just what we needed.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time, Enrio. Congrats again on that stunning victory. Really appreciate it. Great job.
Thank you, appreciate it. Have a good day.
Well, there you go, Climps. Let's take a look here at our stats really quick at the end of this match. And wow, Giddy hitting a 1.81 rating at the end of that. How about that?
9-1 for Giddy at the top of the leaderboard, shining and showing everything that he did in this match. I mean, overall, the entire team of Illness just so dominant. Look at BJL, right? Came in as a sub. Has always played on solid rosters. I don't think he's ever been a part of really good rosters that I've ever seen shine out in any leagues. But he's a good player, and I've seen him begin to outgrow some of the rosters he used to be on. And going in on a 4-0 entry, it shows that you can plug anyone into an entry role in this team that's an entry-oriented player that can win their fights, and they will succeed because of the information game that was elicited by the support of Inrio, Wimpy, and Arrow. They did such an incredible job of enabling the entry tonight. I mean, that is hands down why they won this match, because if you look at it, there's one entry win for West Garfield Park, and that was
Yep,
it. Everything else was complete dominance by Illness, and it shows.
it
So
does.
it's not a big surprise as to why this is the result. I'm surprised that this was the result, but the way that it was played, the incredible sub work by BJL, and overall just the team play and teamwork of of Illness rather, excuse me. That's why they won. They just looked like a tenfold a better team.
They did look like tenfold a better team, and the confidence of Inrio there in the interview. I love the kind of just ability to play together as a unit, really complimentary of BJL and how they played, and just they look like a team that knew what they were doing. And the interview made me feel like they were a team that knew what they were doing. So a great night for them. Garfield Park, obviously they've got some lessons that they're going to want to take from that one, some adaptations that they need to make, but yeah, all credit to Illness for putting on an amazing performance. But we're not done. We've got 3 more matches here on the way. Clips and I are going to be back on the mic. But first, we're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. SFCL continues after this.